watching Portfolio Makeover, and I'm Ron DeLegge. It's great to have you with us. Coming up on today's program, we'll be looking at a $113,000 investment portfolio for Fabian in Virginia. And guess what? He's with us. So stand by. Before we get to that, I want to pose a question to our audience, something for you to think about. If your investment portfolio was a movie, what genre would it be? Would it be drama? Would it be horror? Would it be romance? Maybe it would be a comedy, or perhaps a saga with many unwanted sequels. But think about that. And the main purpose of this program, of course, is to help you find the strengths and weaknesses of your portfolio so that you can build on the strengths, eliminate the weaknesses, and make improvements as you reach your financial goals. So without further ado, let's welcome Fabian to the program. Thank you for being here, Fabian.
Ron, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a couple of months now, and you expressed a real appreciation for this program and enthusiasm for the show, and I appreciate that. And, you know, the other thing, too, is that, you've been willing to, of course, share some of your information with us with the purpose of helping you find out where you're at right now and, of course, where you can make some needed improvements. And so let's push my screen to the audience so they can kind of get a snapshot of your situation. And feel free to jump in at any time. So this is kind of where you're at right now. You're 44 years old. You don't look a day over 43, by the way.
I'm almost 44. My birthday is coming up in the beginning of September, so I'm excited.
All right. Well, you're a young 43 and you're married. You're also self-employed and you're managing these investments yourself. And we're going to take a look at three accounts. You've got the Roth IRA, a taxable brokerage account, and then a UGMA account, Uniform Gift to Minors Act. And this is your investment plan. And I really love this. Tell me a little bit about what we're looking at here.
Well, I have an artistic background, and everything I do, I love cycles, and I'm a bit of a science geek. So I call this my wealth wormhole, because I'm obsessed with both Star Trek and physics. I decided the best way for me to become wealthy would be for me to create some sort of a wormhole that, through space and time, that would take me from my present state of modest income to a future of money.
Yeah.
And so I call it the wealth wormhole, and I put a lot of thought into how can I create a self-sustaining portfolio that grows as quickly as I can get it to grow, and then pays dividends.
Yeah. And of course, better that it be a wormhole than a snake hole. Sometimes it can become a rabbit hole, though. Or in other cases, a black hole if we're getting in trouble. What's that?
I went down a rabbit hole to get here.
All right. Well, and then we also see, too, that you really emphasize a lot of income-oriented strategies here. Of course, you got the covered calls. I see you got some REITs in there. That's an acronym for Real Estate Investment Trust, and then the BDCs, which, of course, again, all very high income focused. Now, this is kind of a snapshot of where you're at. This is the taxable brokerage account. We can see a large position there to Tesla. That's your biggest holding in this portfolio. And just throughout, we're going to see that with the other portfolios, a lot of exposure to Tesla. As far as the UGMA account, that's currently where you're at. You got three positions in there. I see two ETFs and then a single stock. By the way, SCHD is coming up you got an ETF battle coming up on that particular ETF. So stay tuned for that, you SCHD fans. So I'm sure you'll
be watching.
Yeah, you'll be interested in that. And then this is a look at your Roth IRA account, and you can see some of your holdings here. Again, that reoccurring theme of Tesla in the form of TSLY, one of those yield max ETFs. We've got a couple of viewers, actually more than a couple, that have been chasing me on the yield max ETFs. They want to see more information and more ETF battles. Of course, a lot of these funds are relatively new. They don't even have a one-year history, at least not yet. But this ETF focuses, of course, on high income, a covered call strategy on Tesla. So just explain, to our audience a little bit. You're doing covered call strategies on your own also. And I think that this next slide kind of shows what's going on. Maybe you can just tell us what you're doing here.
Absolutely. Well, prior to coming up with my strategy, I was invested, and I don't have a problem with covered call ETFs, but I did discover that I could make more money if I was not investing in some of those ETFs and if I started doing the covered call selling myself.
Yeah.
I was previously invested in XYLD, which I actually really enjoyed. It was nice at the end of every month to see a few $100s come in. It made me feel very good about myself. And then I asked myself, well, can I do this myself without having to pay I'm forgetting my words.
The expense ratio.
Pay their expense ratio.
Yeah.
So I decided in January I would start researching how to do this on my own. And I stuck with it because it started blowing my usual income out of the water.
Yeah.
So what you have up here with this slide here, I track from month to month all of my premium from covered call selling. So you'll see here in February, I made just over $1,200 from selling covered calls in Tesla. And then in March, $4,600, and so on. And then I've highlighted in green my favorite month so far, where I made $7,000. And this is all in Tesla covered call selling.
Yeah.
And I've stuck with Tesla only as a temporary thing, because right now that is, or at least during these months, that's where I found the highest amount of volatility.
Yeah.
So my strategy has been to invest my money in at least selling 2 to 3 call options for Tesla while it's extremely volatile.
Yeah.
At some point, when Tesla falls out of favor, perhaps, I will shift that over into something like SPY or QQQ. But right now, Tesla is cheaper than those two, and I'm able to sell more of it. So that is, so this year, up through August, I have made about a little over $18,000 selling Tesla covered calls.
Yeah. And as you indicated there, for our audience, this strategy, the more volatile the underlying security, whether that's an ETF or stock, the higher the premiums. So that certainly has been the case, like you said, with Tesla. So let's look at your portfolio from a couple different angles. Let's look at the cost of the portfolio, because this is what this is my process for determining and separating architecturally sound investment portfolios from those that aren't. And obviously, we want to minimize investment costs to the greatest degree possible. I think for the most part, you're doing that. You've got $113,000 in combined accounts. Your most expensive ETF is TSLY, and it's charging you about $260 a year based on that $26,000 investment. But we need to remember the yield on that thing. As of, let's say, just yesterday, mid-August or late August, we're looking at a yield in the vicinity of like 65 to 70%. That's annualized. So obviously that's going to change moment to moment, but that yield is more than offsetting your expenses there. You're doing about 20 to 30 trades per year. You don't have any brokerage commissions. And then your option trades, the cost for that is very low. So in terms of costs, I'd say you're doing a pretty good job. In terms of risk and diversification, your overall asset breakdown, and this is kind of a high level look at where you're at, you got about roughly 10% in cash. These numbers, by the way, are rounded, and approximately 90% allocated to stocks. Based on my analysis, you've got about $73,000 concentrated to Tesla and TSLY alone. So that's pretty high in terms of concentration risk. And of course, we don't notice concentration risk until things start to fall off and go bad. When it's helping us, it's wonderful, right? And that's sort of, I think, the paradox with concentration is on one hand, it can be wonderful when things are going well, but on the other hand, when things start to head south, it could be really, really rough. In terms of your tax positioning, you've got your 3 places where money can be located. This applies not to you, just you, Fabian, but to myself and to all of us. And those 3 places are what I call the tax me now bucket, the tax me later bucket, and then the tax me never bucket. And philosophically, I've been talking about it on this channel, and we've talked about it offline, is that we're heading into an environment of dramatically higher tax rates. And I was so impressed to see you have that much money in your tax me never bucket, the Roth. Why did you even decide to open up and fund a Roth? Can you just tell us why you did that?
If you want the honest answer, I was watching your show.
Okay.
Watching your show.
Yeah.
This was a number of months ago, and I had the first time you kept talking about the tax me never bucket and how important that was, and I only watch a few financial shows, and your show is the one that is focused more on tax possibilities. So what are we preparing for in the future here? Yep. And as I intend to be here in the future, I need to start thinking about the tax ramifications of what I'm doing. So I thought, I had all of that money in a traditional IRA.
Okay.
And I thought, for a long time, I believed, well, right now I'm with my current day job, I'm pulling in a lot of money, and I want to be able to write that off right now, so I could just invest the money that I can save in taxes.
Yeah.
And then, as I watched more of your show, it started to shift my way of thinking to the point of thinking, well, I am comfortable now, so right now is the time I can adjust to negative environments. So I have my income sources for my day job, but if I want to be comfortable in the future after I've retired, then I might need to set myself up for a possibly negative tax environment. So I thought, while I can, I've only got about $30,000 in my traditional IRA. It's only going to get worse, so I might as well shift it all into a Roth IRA now. So I did that at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, and that's a huge move too for you, and I'm glad that you embrace that ideology of higher tax rates in retirement, because I think the financial services industry as a whole has not gotten the memo on that. They're just starting to kind of warm up to it, but they're a little bit late on this. So it's good that you see that and that you continue funding that. That's very good. Now, in terms of the performance of your portfolio, if we take a look at this over the past year, according to my calculations, you gained about 16%, which versus the triple Qs, which track the NASDAQ 100, and SPY, which tracks S&P 500, you did somewhere right in about the middle, which is pretty good, actually. Anytime you could beat a broad benchmark, that's not an easy feat. And keep in mind, this past year, part of it has been 2022, which is just a horrible year. So you managed to still outperform during a pretty difficult time frame. Now, this gets back to what we were talking earlier about risk. If you'll notice the bottom section here, this part, you can kind of see the volatility of the account just because of that concentration in Tesla. You had, let's see, 129, just over 129 in mid-July. And then, of course, that went down to 113. And since then, it's rebounded a little, but again, you're seeing a lot more volatility when you have concentrated risk in just one stock. So let's talk about what I like about your portfolio, Fabian. First of all, the cost of the portfolio is contained, and that's going to be definitely something that you want to continue with. I always liken this to a horse race. Which horse are you going to bet on if you had to make a bet? Would it be the horse with the 350-pound jockey or the one with the 100-pound jockey? Clearly, it's the horse that has the lighter weight, and with investments, it's the same way. Less cost works to your advantage. Also, I like your alternative income strategy, covered calls. I think this is an underutilized strategy everyone talks about dividends, but this is one of those alternative income strategies that I don't see enough investors using, especially those that are approaching retirement or already in retirement, to add to those traditional dividend strategies. So you're some years away from retirement, but you're already using it. So it's good that you understand the power of generating passive income beyond just traditional dividends. Your tax positioning, I think it's heading in the right direction. You're starting to continue to fill up that tax me never bucket. So continue to do that. And then you have a written investment policy statement. I'd say it's rather unconventional, but hey, that's okay. At least you have an idea of how you're mapping things out. It's your wormhole, as you said, and you understand it. There's some things that probably can be improved with it, some details, but overall, I think it's a good start. And then you had solid 1-year performance. So what I don't like about your portfolio, or things that could use some improvement, I think diversification clearly needs to be improved. You can do that by adding some building block ETFs that anchor the portfolio and give you a little bit more broader diversification. Risk is clearly pretty elevated. You've got a lot of exposure to Tesla. And of course, that could be beneficial when things are going well. But at the same time, there's a lot of unknowns. And things could possibly happen in the future that take a turn for the worse. We just don't know. God forbid something happens to Elon Musk. I mean, that's what you have with any kind of company single stock risk, is the threat that something happened to that founder or that company leader. So I think you understand that and you're aware of it. And as you mentioned, that's sort of your short-term plan, at least for now, in terms of generating income. So how can we improve this portfolio? Well, I'd say continue loading up that tax me never bucket. Just continue with that, funding, the Roth IRA. This is what I would do if this was my own money. And also enhance your diversification. You missed some major asset classes when we did that slide on stocks and cash. You saw a couple that had zeros in there. So you had real estate that was zero, commodities, and then bonds. Now, these are all what we call core asset classes. So, maybe shoring that up would help you. And then spreading risk versus concentrating it, that's always a good idea. And then the other thing, too, with the covered call strategies, obviously that immediate income is wonderful, but it also limits or caps your upside. And I think you know what I'm talking about, because you probably have been with Tesla, you probably had some of those shares called away once in a while, correct?
Yes. I've learned a good bit
Yeah.
from having that done. You mentioned getting started with the covered call strategy before retirement, and I'm very happy I did.
Yeah.
I've made a lot of mistakes. I've had my options called away from me and assigned
Yeah.
a number of times. I've missed out on a lot of Tesla gains, and then it forced me to learn about puts. And so I've started selling cash secured puts as well.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, right now, I'm definitely in a learning stage where I'm learning a lot. A lot of fast things happen with Tesla.
Yeah.
So I agree with you entirely. It's actually very stressful being invested in Tesla, where I could be learning this stuff with something a bit more secure, like an ETF that also has a high volatility. So, but I love the roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
So it's been a very fast paced learning environment,
Well, we appreciate.
and it does
Yeah. Go ahead.
it does feel very nice to have the control of going online, hitting a few buttons, selling an option, and then getting that immediate money in.
Yep.
So there is a rewarding part of it, and almost becomes like an addiction. So if you have a good strategy, I'm learning to work on my strategy.
Yeah.
So it's been a big thing. It's about selling the right things and being prepared for if the worst should happen and you get assigned. Are you happy with that assignment?
Yep, definitely. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and hopefully this will motivate other viewers to come onto the program. how can you improve your IRA, 401k plan, or other investments? Well, get in touch. Hit the description section below and come on to Portfolio Makeover and we can talk about it. Thanks again, Fabian, for joining the program. It was great having you with us. And we look forward also, I look forward to checking back with you and seeing how you're progressing with your overall investment plan and checking back if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. I'll be here and I'm still going to be doing this. It's become a real passion. I treat it like a video game in some ways. I shouldn't, but it's been fun actually for me.
Excellent. Well, thanks for coming on and we'll see you soon. I'm Ron DeLegge. Thanks for watching Portfolio Makeover and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.